All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, and real estate associates. Hey, welcome, Adam and Francisco. Thank you guys for joining into the newest webinar. We're getting online as our little segment where we pop out these webinars every so often for the community. And you guys asked for it, and I definitely delivered. I'm trying all the time to find new topics, so please, if you ever get a new topic, let me know. We're definitely looking forward to this one. We had some great recommendations from you guys in the WhatsApp chat. At the end of this webinar, you'll actually be able to use a QR code to join our WhatsApp group. So please, if you're not a part of it, you definitely want to be a part of it. We have a good community. We have events. We have these webinars. We're trying to get a collective together to be able to get closer and understand, this market and real estate in general a lot better as time goes on. So, I'll never place myself as the guru, but I'll tell you what I see, and I'll tell you what I see other investors doing. Okay, so thank you guys so much for coming, and let's get to it. All right. So today's topic, how to get top rents in Gary, Indiana, and how to keep them. This is going to be some good info, guys. So going on to what's going to be the objectives? What are we focused on here? Well, we're going to be focused on how to help you guys understand how to be able to maintain that performance in the market. Specifically, Adam, thank you, specifically on zip codes. We're going to talk about the map of Gary, break down zip code by zip code, and kind of what we see in the general market as far as rents and as far as, kind of the different towns, energy, right? If you guys look, for the ones that did join the webinar, please look around. You guys are going to find some attachments that are going to be extremely useful to you. You'll find 4 attachments. If you don't get them, I can email them to you. But these 4 attachments are essentially going to have the new fair housing market sheet, a rent limit sheet. This is amazing. It actually shows the maximum and minimums that Section 8 can offer you. And then what else? We got the 5-year plan involved and our inspection checklist. So check that out, guys. If you guys don't get it, please let me know. I'll make sure that you guys get it. So what else do we got here? We're going to be, how do you raise rents and then improve the quality of your tenants? Esther, I appreciate you. You definitely, in the WhatsApp chat recommended this. We're going to talk about it for sure. And teach how to qualify tenants the right way, balancing speed, compliance, and risk reduction. Okay. I also didn't forget about you, Yahara. We're going to talk a little bit about the softwares at the end here too. So moving to the next item here, we're going to talk about, look at this map right here. I want you guys to really memorize this map because this is the different towns or the different neighborhoods, I should say, because Gary is the town, the different neighborhoods within Gary, Indiana. All these different neighborhoods have distinctive locations, and pretty much you see different projects based on these areas, right? Like you see things coming down. I'd almost recommend that you guys look at this middle line right here as Broadway coming down. But these are the different towns that Gary abides by right now. Okay. So something very interesting to talk about, for some of you guys are going to think this is pretty familiar. For others, it's brand new. It's going to be some great new information. Gary, back in the day, right, they used to be known for the mill, right, known for all of these jobs. People would flock from all over the world to come to our area so that they can get a job in the steel mill where it paid great. The problem is, back in the late 60s or mid 60s, they let go of over 30,000 jobs that were doing in the steel mill. And that's what destroyed the town, as far as all of the abandoned houses, people leaving, people having to find other places to live. It was a shame, but the town is doing an amazing job at bringing back jobs. I mean, it might not be that 30,000 number, but, damn it. We are having these new projects come in and they're having 800 jobs, 600 jobs, 700 jobs, hundreds of jobs. And over time, it's going to add up, right? So we look at this map right here and notice I put like kind of like a crosshair on it, or, because we're going to improve this town, right? No. So I actually turned it into essentially like a graph where there's 4 different, what are they called? You know what I'm talking about, right? So quadrants, there we go. So there's 4 different quadrants. Some of you guys, I've talked to you about it before. These 4 different quadrants are actually broken up based on the map, and they dictate a lot of how the market runs and what the name of the streets are and how things function. So let's go ahead and move into the next portion. So the first thing I got to talk about is my little drawing of the Chicago skyline. It only makes sense to know that the closer to Chicago you are, the more money that's involved. The further away, the less money that's involved. Because what happens, well, people, as they're coming down, and I apologize, guys, I'm outside, so you're going to hear some people revving their cars and whatnot, so apologize, by main road. So you're actually going to see people when they're getting off of the highway. Every time they get off of the highway, they're kind of parking themselves. And the closer you are to Chicago, the more volume that you have in the money that they have, right? The further away, the less money, most likely. It's the furthest away from money, right? So, you know, that's going to kind of dictate how the market generally runs right here. So just keep that in mind as we go along here. Okay, so in this upper left quadrant, you're going to notice that all of the names that run horizontal, up and down, everything vertical, wait, no, I'm sorry. Horizontal is this way, vertical is this way. So everything horizontal is numbers, everything vertical is going to be names, right? And so everything, the numbers start essentially as high as, like, I think 2, I believe, you know, starting horizontally and go all the way down to like 59. Everything that's going vertically on the west side of Broadway, on the northwest side, and what is that line right here? We got Broadway going vertically and horizontally. I would say that this is somewhere probably, you know, just north of the 8094. So let's call this one like 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue, right? Or maybe you know, maybe a little bit more south, but this is kind of right smack in the middle here. You know, where this crosshair would be. And everything to that northwest side is going to be named after presidents. So you're going to see Washington, Eisenhower. You're going to see, you know, names like Roosevelt, things like that. And the northwest side being the closest to Chicago, it's a prime flip area because guess what? People maintain their homes better. There's bigger homes in general. These homes are, you know, a little bit more developed, and even the government buildings, I believe, are on this northwest side here. So where's most of the money going? To redevelop themselves, right? To redevelop the government first and then expand outward. So definitely what you'll see a trend in with the market generally. Okay. Down here in this lower left quadrant, you're going to notice that most of these homes are historic, large homes, these 5-bedroom, 3,000 square feet, massive homes from way back in the day, right? All of them like over 100 years. Oh, hold on for me, guys. Oh, these massive large structures, and they go by the Declaration of Independence names. So you're going to see like Tyler, Harrison, you know, and a few different names that had to do with big you know, big signatures on the Declaration of Independence, right? So moving on to the next, you got on the east side. Now, this is the unique thing, because on the north side and the south side of the east side, you're going to have nothing but state names. And when you run along the water, you're going to notice that there's definitely a, of course, there's going to be an interest in rental, because this is the furthest away from Chicago, running along the water. But you're going to notice these homes hold their value a little bit more steadfast than the ones on the south side. On the south side, these ones tend to be a little bit more cheap. And you're going to notice when we talk about the Section 8 that as you go south and far away, the higher the rental assistance programs offer you. So, all right, now we're talking about that southwest side. I'm sorry, southeast side. This is the furthest from Chicago. It's a prime rental area. It has massive rents here. They're making a major push, and they're going to usually make a major push depending on what's going on in the market. The place that's getting the least amount of attention is probably going to get the most amount of help. And then, you know, of course, state names here. So, Adam, I know you were looking forward to this, brother. So I tried my best to kind of specify what's going on in these different areas, where they're at, what kind of rental you know, markets are we seeing, what kind of numbers are we seeing. So you're going to see right here, this is straight from Zillow. I did this like I took these pictures as close to this webinar as I could, so that way you guys could see some active listings in the market. Now, granted, active listings don't mean sold, but I'll tell you what, you can see generally what kind of numbers are popping up. So right here, you got 46404 Midwest, right? So you got the left side, and we did a project over here, renovation. Shout out to Michael Ellis for his project at 2015 Van Buren Street. Very successful project, and very beautiful home. It came out great. He, if you don't mind, I think he purchased it for 65, put 30 into it, and it appraised at like 145 or 140, somewhere in between there. So amazing transition there. So the one thing about this area is you're going to notice there's a lot of schools. So you got that Roosevelt High School, you got the West Side, you got where else? A few major schools over here, and they were abandoned at first, but we're seeing massive renovations. We're seeing we actually started and led in the renovation of the basketball courts at Roosevelt. We ended up helping out a charity. I'm sorry, not charity, a non-for-profit that was already working, asked us to come. And so 3 of us ended up showing up and showing out, trying to help. And we had a great basketball game afterwards. So, but yeah, okay, we see the 2 bedrooms and 3 bedroom rates here. Now, where am I pulling this from? Well, I'm pulling this from the HUD's 2026 rental market sheet. Yes, the next year's rental market sheet is already out. You guys are going to see that. And if you can see the attachments, you can download it now. If you want to see it and you can't see it, you just got to go to HUD, look up Gary, Indiana 2026, and it should pop up. And if not, let me know. Shoot me a message. We'll get it to you. Okay, what about 46405, right? 46405 is going to be on that far right side. Now, this is interesting. This is Lake Station. Actually, I was born in this town. So this area is actually where my family's from too. This area was annexed a long time ago. I believe it was around that late 60s or possibly early. I need to get that information. But it was annexed to separate its name away from Gary when everything was going crazy, when people were flocking away, and there was fights on the street. It was mayhem at that time because people were in survival mode now, right? So East Gary, you're going to notice, I mean, these rents are pretty serious out here, and the value is a little bit more steep, than what generally Gary is. Well, that's because it's, considered a completely separate town. You'll notice that Maryville is also included in this, webinar, but these are technically areas of Gary if you look at the township. This is considered East Gary. 6406, this is the farthest northwest side. Now, this one's really important, guys, because we just found out that we're getting a new FedEx distribution center. So that's going to be a 317,000 square foot building, bringing 600 jobs, and they already broke ground on October 2nd. So that's going to be massive. You want to be able to appreciate your property, you need to get something over there in the northwest side and make sure that you put some equity into it. So probably a good project area. Now, rents, you're going to notice it's going to be the lower amounts, right? Like, that's not necessarily bad. Actually, let me double check here. Okay, yeah, sorry. That's not actually that bad. Those numbers are, relatively average, right? But this is what we're noticing, is that it's fewer and far between. Most of the homeowners, right? Gary, Indiana is over 51% of all of the property owners in Gary are investors. So you're probably going to see most of the actual homeowners in this northwest side. So 46407. 46407 is kind of that Midwest, or that middle ground, actually, that perfect middle ground. You're going to see that not that they have large homes all over the place, right? They may not have large homes all over the place, but you're going to notice that most of the tenants are going to want to actually seek the larger homes out there. So at 2 bedrooms are averaging at like 1070, and then 3 bedrooms at like 1310. So that's what we're seeing, and you can see. Make sure you take advantage of seeing these rental values, or I'm sorry, these list price values here. 46408. Southwest unincorporated. You're going to see that this isn't even on that town's map here. Why? Because this is Ross Township. This is that area where it begins to be unincorporated. You got septic tanks. It's not part of public sewers. We got a place that we're managing off of 41st Street. And off of 41st Street, this place is just now getting ready to have public assistance. We thought it had already been. in the prior listing it said it was, but because it's on that threshold line, it wasn't known until later that it was part of a septic system. Okay. So 46409, and let me know, guys, if I'm going too fast. I can take some time. If you guys have questions, please let me know. Would love to, answer anything. Let's check this out. Adam, you said, yeah, we have one in Midwest, 46407, that is taking a while to rent. Think we might have to lower the price a bit. Well, hopefully you got a, I don't know if that was a project, but hopefully you got a good valuation off of that appraisal there. Because that 46407, I think it's pretty fair for how they appraise and how they value out there. But yeah, 46407. And don't be discouraged, man. Everybody's kind of seeing a slowdown on being able to fill their vacancies around this time. I think it was on the last webinar we had. I mean, I think the market average was getting close to like 27%, which is extremely aggressive. But we'll see. So 46409 mid-east side. So 46409 mid-east side. So we got the Gary Hobart alignment here. So now you're bridging into that Hobart, New Chicago. New Chicago's kind of a super small town in between Lake Station and Hobart here. And generally, right after you pass that I-65, there's like a big spike in value. It's so funny that I-65 on the other side, it's like all these homes are, they're Hobart homes, but it's still, seen as Gary, right? And there's a major drop in their value. And then right over the bridge, it's like, boom, like another $50,000, $80,000 in valuations. It's crazy. So you got these 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms here for $1,410 and $1,730 here. So very good, very good. And finally, we have this southwest side. This is 46410, technically Maryville, right? So it's technically Maryville. What is Maryville? Maryville was annexed as well. So Gary used to reach all the way down to, Gary used to be massive. I mean, a massive town where most of the towns around it, or at least some of the towns, let me say some of the towns, I shouldn't say most. Some of the towns around it had all been a part of it, but got annexed just because of the bad publicity and how things were, essentially working. So we see extremely high rents when you're talking about this 46410. This is the highest number that you can get on the Section 8 list if you see it this year, because everybody knows that this is the area that gets the least amount of help. But then right over the bridge, right when you get to Maryville, there's a massive boom. You got the mall, you got this big strip and chain of restaurants. So it, where Maryville meets Hobart down there is a great area. But yeah, that's that threshold of unincorporated space. So, all right, now let's get to it. Now you guys kind of understand how the market is working out here, what we're seeing generally. How do you get top rents and actually keep them, right? Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Right? Well, the first thing you got to ask yourself, is raising the rent the right choice? That's the first thing everybody's going to say. Is raising the rent the right choice? Because there's some people that's like, man, I haven't raised the rent in 10 years because they have paid every single month on time. Fair enough. If that's the case, that is fair enough. But how much money are you leaving on the table? I mean, we're in a game called investing, right? You're risking it for the biscuit. No matter what way you look at it, no matter how conservatively you choose, you are putting something at risk, right? So if you're going to choose something, of course, consistency is always going to win. But make sure that you guys are getting the value. And how can you determine that? Well, generally at the market rate. If you're below that market rate, if you're at least below the like a range of, I forgot how, I think it's like 5 or 10% north and south is supposed to be safe. It's something like that. But if you're below that, 10% of what the market value is, you probably need to start talking to someone about, how to raise your rent, or maybe go up to your tenant and renegotiate, once that lease is up. But yeah, definitely doing something. But okay, I know you guys want to know actually how do you raise the rent. Okay, well, the first step that we're seeing is rent readiness. So what are you offering in exchange for this number, right? What we're seeing all the time is that I see guys that come into Gary that, we work with. And I mean, they go way over the top, right? I mean, it's decked out to the nines. But the one thing I will say is that when it's decked out to the nines, they never have a problem negotiating. I mean, they never have a problem. Yeah, it might be a little too much, but it still comes with its pros, So what are you offering and what is beyond the standard? Now, of course, there is a minimum standard, but what are some of those things that might be considered above standard? Believe it or not, ceiling fans in the bedroom is actually part of the rent readiness, right? Central air in the house, parking, and the ability for them to have storage are all other ways that kind of take into factor how much the value of your rent could be. The person that told me this is one of the inspectors from one of the housing authorities. I don't want to say any names, but they specifically said just as simple as not having ceiling fans in your bedrooms can be a factor in that rent readiness. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah, what do you do beyond the minimums? Now, how many of you guys have actually ever tried to negotiate with your housing authority? I understand, right? A lot of us use property management services. That's great. And does that property management service actually go and negotiate with your housing authority? What I can promise you guys is that when you guys work with us, every single conversation of every property, we negotiate and try and get you a little bit more and as much as possible. But how do you do that, right? Well, there's actually minimums we found out about. Minimums, can you believe that? So now that we can prove that there's minimums, we could send this over to them and be like, hey, you can't rent to us for this number. The state says that your minimum is this. If you don't change this, we're going to report this. That's a different conversation than what most of these aggressive housing authority representatives, initially start with. And everybody knows how these reps are. They're stone cold. This is what we offer. No questions, no negotiations. This is it. And so what do you do? Now we found something, right? So let's hop right into this. Here's a few different options, right? Creating a relationship. Shout out to the lumberjack landlord, because when he was out here, he gave me some great advice. He said, well, do you actually know somebody in the housing authority? Do you actually know who the director is? Do you have a relationship deep with those people? Do they know who Estate Squared Away is? And I started thinking about it like, well, I guess that they probably talk to so many people that they probably don't know us that well. And I guess I can't just call a friend that works at a housing authority right now. So then maybe I don't have as strong of a relationship as I had originally hoped for. And then you think about it and it's like, oh, well, if I always have a rep and I know that, or if I make friends with the different caseworkers in there, and then I go and have, the tenant go and turn in their RTA form, well, then isn't that going to work in your favor? I'm sorry, but that's how the world works. Like with relationships, the better that your friendship is with that, how, like any relationship, the easier it is to convince someone to work with you, right? The second thing is obtaining that housing authority rep contact. It's kind of hard to do. I'm not going to lie. Unless they trust you and they feel comfortable, there was so much corruption back in the day that they keep people under a tight thumb right now, or iron fist, right? So it's very dangerous to be able to, or very dangerous from their position, to be able to create relationships. So, if you can, or if your company can, or if you know that your property manager does have a relationship with the housing authority beyond just knowing how to do the paperwork, that is a massive plus. And we definitely have a friend in there. Shout out to Miss Vega there, Araceli Vega. She's an awesome rep. If you guys ever have a client that comes in with a caseworker from her, she does amazing work. So, and then offer comps and show rent minimums. So how many times have, you as an independent investor that manages your property, you offered comps ahead of time? Yeah, they can give you a number that you don't like, and then you could be like, well, but here's the comps. But most of them, once they say something, it's done. You're not trying to correct them. You're trying to help them or guide them, right? So what you want to do is essentially take those comparables, send it off. I mean, shoot. What we might even start doing is start having a packet that we give to the tenant when they turn in their RTA form. Like, hey, here's the rent minimums, here's the comps, here's everything. Boom. Like, this is the number we want. Don't tell us that it's not, but, and then I've heard that to be effective. So these rent minimums. Okay, what are we talking about with these rent minimums? I'm going to actually see if I can stop my screen from sharing, and I'm going to actually show you what I'm talking about here. So let's see. Actually, can I change? All right, you guys might see my behind the scenes here, but let's see if I can share the screen to the. Okay, check this stuff out, guys. All right, you guys are gonna love this. So this is actually the Indiana Department of HUD State Home Program Rents Program. I'm sorry, the Housing Authority Program. So this is how the rents should be and what their maximum and minimums are. So let's actually see if we can find Gary here. So I'm gonna look up Gary. There it is. So low home rent limit, right? Keyword limit, right? High home rent limit, fair market rent, and 50%, 50%. So we got highs and lows. So let's look. We got a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, right? So this 2-bedroom, if we come to Gary and we look up 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, Gary. This is 2025, by the way. So we got 2 bedrooms right here at 1,076. How many times have they tried to give us 850 or something low like that? First thing I'm doing is I'm sending them, hey, Indiana says that this is the rent limit, the low rent limit right here. And then we got the high home rent limit, of course, being at 1197. Well, it does look like it goes beyond that of 60%. I don't necessarily understand what this 50 and 65 mean, to be honest with you. But the fair market rent is seeming to be at 1197 for that 2-bedroom. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm highlighting this and sending this to the housing authority, being like, hey, explain to me why this says that the low rent is 1,076 and you gave me an offer for 850, and tell me why that shouldn't be higher, at least to this number right here. Same thing goes for that 3-bedroom. Okay. Hey, maybe you get a caseworker that just doesn't care and doesn't want to handle, increase it. But I'll tell you what, this is a damn good argument. In my opinion, this is a damn good argument. And I have to give credit to Demetrius. He's on our team and he was the one that found this. So shout out to you, Demetrius. You did awesome, as always. And he found out about these rent minimums here through the HUD's website when we were looking up for the market rents. Okay, so definitely check this out, guys. I'm going to also go back to this. Let's see here. Give me a second, guys. Oh, no. Well, I think we're still live here. Okay. I thought we accidentally popped off here. Okay. Perfect. All right, guys, give me 2 seconds. I'm not so graceful here. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, so now we're back to here. Looking over. Sorry. Hang on. All right, so now you guys got an opportunity to see these different sections. So tell me what you think. Hey, Angelo, you're totally wrong. This is what it actually means. I'm not claiming to know stuff for a fact, but I'll tell you what, this is damn convincing. Show me why it's wrong. Because to me, that right there says rent limit on it, and it says low rent limit. So to me, that's an argument right there. So alternatives/resources. Where can the tenants go for short-term and long-term help? What are you offering them if they can't pay their rent? If you want, okay, so now we're talking about not just getting high rents, we're talking about keeping the rents. How do you make sure that you constantly get that rental income? If you have a property manager, hopefully they're doing this and they have sources to be able to make sure they pay rent. However, if you don't and you're doing self-management, you need to be very influenced in how alternative incomes and what you can do to make sure that they can pay that rent. Because the better you are at that, the more you can maintain that rent long-term. And unfortunately, some people, I know that rents are known as a passive thing, but if you're self-managing, it's probably not going to be that passive. You're probably going to have to be fighting through it to make sure that people pay on time. So what do these look like, right? Here's some different items here. You got the Calumet the Calumet Township Trustees Office. They have a rental assistance program very similar to Section 8, but it's on 30-day periods, right? You just got to get your property inspected one time, but as long as that tenant goes each month to register, you'll get a check and you won't have to worry about anything, right? I've received it myself. I've done it multiple times. It's a great program. The hardest part is getting the tenant to go and register. It's unbelievable. You still got the federal and state emergency rental assistance programs. Now, there's been talk that they've removed this with this new administration, but from my understanding, there are still some federal level opportunities for you to be able to get assistance. And you obviously still have SNAP. SNAP offers those home assistance and cash assistance. That's like that EBT food stamps. You got rental insurance. Some rental insurance also offer a rental guarantee. Maybe we look into this in a future webinar. We see what kind of insurance should our tenants be getting. What should I require for them? That's what I'm interested in. And then you got these non-for-profits that love to help people. Coaction and Sojourner, we work with both of these guys and they're amazing. So they're great resources if your client or tenant ends up, falling short of rent, right? Okay, so how do you get qualified tenants? So this was a question from Esther. Shout out to Esther. This was definitely for you. How do you get qualified tenants? And I'm just checking to see if we have any questions, how we're doing. Well, you get tenants by offering nice things. Nice offers equal nice tenants, right? So what are you offering? And let's talk about it. These people that I thought were going way over the top, right? Like just put unbelievable stuff in their home, right? I ended up realizing that their tenants are the ones that give us the least amount of problems. And I was like, wait, I'm over here thinking like, wow, this was, not the best choice. But now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, this wasn't a bad choice at all, because the consistency as which they're paying rent is it doesn't miss. They don't miss, So now I'm thinking, well, should the standard be the standard? Like, where do you fall in when you're talking about making these renovations? Because everyone knows you put the agreeable gray walls, the white trim, you put the white cabinets and the countertop and the gray LVP. But then you think about it, it's like the people that are going over the top, or I should say the thing about the low income areas is that when people finally get something nice, they protect it, and they protect it by any means how, and it's a survival instinct now. So the nicer the home, the less willing they are to give it up. So maybe adding those extra, fancy items might be worth it. We have to see. It just depends if it's in your budget and you're willing to do it and you're comfortable with it. But it's not a bad choice when you're trying to look for quality tenants. Channels, where are they, right? So how many of you guys actually know about the channels where you find these tenants? How many of you guys, like, okay, I know a million people that put listings on Facebook. Is listings on Facebook going to be where you find a quality tenant? You might get lucky, but I'll tell you what, the people that are quality aren't necessarily looking on Facebook. They're making actions. People don't talk the talk, they walk the walk. If they're actually qualified tenants, they're going to be looking for the highest and best opportunities for themselves, and they're not going to deal with anything below that. So, for example, is it better to put an advertisement on Facebook or put an advertisement on the Housing Authority board? Well, let's think. How many people are looking at the actual Housing Authority board as opposed to just someone looking on Facebook? Well, I mean, my assumption, right? I'm just going to make an assumption here. My assumption is anybody could look on Facebook, and only some people know to go to the Housing Authority's website or to their board and look at those listings, right? So that's my assumption, and I feel like that's a little bit more targeted, right? What about lenders? How many of you guys have lender friends? How many of you guys have ever asked them, hey, did you ever not qualify someone this month? You didn't qualify someone? Where were they looking? Gary? Bet. I want to be your resource for anybody you don't qualify in Gary. Well, let's work something out. I'll buy you dinner. I'll take you bowling. I'll do something with you. But give me anybody that does not qualify, because you know what? people that are quality people are actually going out there and educating themselves, trying to do better, trying to get qualified for a home, and trying to make the next step toward being successful, right? That's for anybody. So this is a great resource if you're looking for people that are essentially trying to get to that next level, and high quality tenants, I'm sorry. So what are our requirements? Let's talk about it state squared away and how we function. Well, we look for 850 credit scores. If you can't qualify for a loan, you probably can't qualify to stay with us. However, right, there are certain exceptions. If you're below that 850 credit score, or you want a fixed income, if you're below that 580 credit score, how far are you below? Are you only like 40 points below or 20 points below? Sorry. Are you only like 40 or 20 points below? Well, okay, well, you're below our threshold. What if you come up with the last month's rent? So not only are you coming up with the security deposit, you're coming up with the last month's rent and the first month's rent. So what's the worst that can happen? Okay, you have to evict them and you still get 2 months of rent. You know, like you get their security deposit and their last month's rent up front. I'll deal with it. You know, that's what I would do. But we also obviously don't take anybody that has an eviction within the last 2 years, no violent offenders within the last 3 years, and they have to show us that they've been working for the past 2 years. So that's only fair. That's pretty much a traditional standard for most lenders. They might be a little bit more strict, but you know, we feel as though this is fair. So let me just check back to see if you guys have any questions. Anybody have questions? No? Okay, perfect. All right, so shout out to Yahara. Because she asked a question about what kind of self-management softwares do people use. In the very beginning, when we first started a state squared away, you know, one person asked us, hey, can you manage for us? You know, I just like to see, you know, someone else, you know, kind of diversify my my management team. Okay, well, sure, you know, let me find something that's pretty easy, you know, like I'll have your back, but I'm not trying to necessarily do it like legitimately, right? In the beginning, that's how it was. Well, so we found these two companies, RentSpree and Baseline. RentSpree actually ties in with the MLS. So, you know, a lot of realtors that go into property management use this. Baseline is awesome because Baseline, it actually creates separate bank accounts. And then so you can actually like pull money independently, and it holds the money there and creates the transaction sheet and any expense sheets. It's like kind of automated. It's pretty cool. It even sends you like a little debit card if you want to like use the different debit cards. And then Avail here. Avail is just one of the top used property management systems that's associated to Realtor.com. So, you know, this one, I've heard of it. It's popular somewhat, but these are kind of like your entry level, you know, software systems. Everybody knows Buildium, everybody knows Yardi, everybody knows these big Rent Cafe. But do you need something that's going to be, you know, do you need a Dodge Challenger right off the lot, or do you just need a car? You know, it's like, let's just get a car right now. And that's what I would recommend. But yeah, that's what we're seeing. So thank you guys. I think that is pretty much it today. I hope that I had some great information, some helpful stuff. If you didn't get these documents, please let me know. I'm going to stop the sharing here in a bit, and I'm going to files if they're not already shared. But here is where you can get that QR code to join our WhatsApp group. Please come join. You'll love it. And tons of people are constantly doing deals amongst each other. So thank you guys, and I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you. All right. All righty. Thank you, Adam. Take care.